Let's talk about specifically congestion during pregnancy that is not associated with like toxin exposure, environmental exposure, and or illness.
Welcome to the Herb Powered Pregnancy. I'm Sarah Vizzani, Master Herbalist, Herb Farmer, Mama 4, and Chemical Engineer. This is your guide to using herbs and whole foods for fertility, pregnancy, birth, postpartum, and beyond. Let's dig in.
We are talking nasal and sinus health during pregnancy today. Many of these tips are going to help whether one is pregnant or not, but there is a unique kind of congestion, or rather unique reasons for non-illness related congestion in pregnant women, which are really interesting. So I'm going to break it down into three different categories, but of course, as we know with health, they kind of mush together, they kind of overlap. So first we have the congestion that is associated with inflammation. And we have congestion associated with cold and flu, like an actual illness/detox situation. And we have congestion associated with being pregnant. Okay, so I'm going to just talk through these three different categories. And some of the helps that I have found help. This is not going to be a completely exhaustive list. So if you have ideas that I have not listed and that you want to share with the group, please go ahead and comment. I love when we can all learn from each other. So, okay, so first off is congestion associated with inflammation. Now, there is definitely overlap here with cold and flu can lead to inflammation. There's the pregnancy-related inflammation. But even when we're not pregnant or sick, what kinds of things could cause inflammation leading to congestion in the nasal and sinus cavities? I hope you can hear me. She's having a hard time today. Mommy's a little busy today. Okay, so what are things that lead to inflammation? Well, if you've been in the health area for any length of time, I'm sure you've seen things about diet. I'm sure you've seen things about environmental exposures. Now, what are highly inflammatory foods? Of course, we have highly processed foods and sugars are the very worst offenders, but particularly with nasal congestion, dairy can be a big source of that. Even if it's raw, even if it's grass-fed, dairy can be a source of that. So something to consider. I was completely on the raw dairy, all things Weston A. Price trend for a long time, and it helped me a lot. And then I needed to do something else to get the breakthroughs that I really, really wanted. And so I have been off dairy for 6 years now, and my chronic nasal congestion is gone. And I'm not the only one I've seen that with. So something to consider. I know that's like the least favorite thing I ever have to say to anyone. It's like, oh, dairy. But it's your choice. Just pay attention to it. And then of course the highly processed foods. Now we could go into all kinds of other things, food related inflammation. I'm just going to talk those for now. Okay. And then we have environmental exposure. So of course now we have lovely experiments happening in our skies all the time, especially here in Utah. The government just got approved for they just approved a huge spending increase in their cloud seeding program. Yeah, that's really just a huge public experiment, unless we can't control what we breathe anymore. Even I live out in the country and it's here too. So, are we just going to get in a fetal position and say it doesn't matter, so I'm just going to eat whatever I want and do whatever I want? Like, well, it's really up to you. I don't recommend it. But there are some things we can control. And I'm actually going to do a whole other video on iodine levels related to the sky experiments. But let's talk about other things that we can control a little bit. So, like avoiding cigarette smoke and pollution. If you live in a polluted area, then definitely getting a high quality air purifier for your home. If you're like me, where it's like you just need to get up to the mountains to get out of the winter inversions or any time of year inversions. If wherever you can find fresh air, go and do that more often if you find you're having a lot of congestion. And then mold exposure can also cause inflammation of the nasal and sinus cavities. Um, so that's just a handful. So if you have chronic inflammation and chronic congestion that's not related to illness, or if whenever you get an illness, it takes like absolutely forever for that congestion to clear, that's something to take a look at. Um, and I would also like you to consider that um, mucus, the development of mucus, one of its purposes is to trap toxins and then lead them out of the body. And they're only going to lead them out of the body if we let those elimination channels happen, right? So I talk about elimination channels a lot. We want to make sure our bowels are moving. We want to make sure our kidney and bladder are functioning correctly. We want to check in on our liver and gallbladder and get our bloodstream really clean. Make sure that our skin is well taken care of and is allowed to breathe by what we are wearing and what we're putting on it. Um, and if we are draining out our nose or coughing, that stuff has to get out. So we do not want to suppress it because your body is doing its job. When you are sneezing and or coughing, it needs to get that stuff out. And it's a much faster way to do it than some other ways. So actually it can be really good. You can say, thank you, body, you're doing awesome. Okay, so on that note, leading into the cold and flu situation slash detox, I'm at a point where my philosophy is to look at every illness as my body's trying to get rid of something rather than, well, I was exposed to something and therefore it's that person's fault. It's like, no, I'm going to take care of my body. And when it's deciding that it's been exposed to something or it's had something buried for a long time that it's ready to let out, I'm going to learn how to support that process. And it's been revolutionary for me and my family. We get through illnesses so much quicker and so much more comfortably and can take care of ourselves at home ourselves. Um, but there are some immune supportive herbs, of course. And in pregnancy, we do have generally a lower immune function. Now, part of that is to make sure that our body doesn't reject the baby. At least this is what I'm told. I learn new things every day. And so my first pregnancy, I was sick all the time. I was living in Boston. I was riding the subway to work every day. I was working full time. Um, I was around little kids at church, and I was sick all the time. And now I know how to support my body better. So some really lovely supportive herbs that can be safely used in pregnancy. Again, with pregnancy, we never want to overwhelm the body. We just want to have just enough. Um, and so we start small and slow. And if that doesn't seem to be enough, we're not kicking it, then we hit it a little bit harder. And then when we found the right dose, we kind of stick to it and then we can taper off as we're getting better. But red rooibos leaf is wonderful, packed full of antioxidants. Anything rich in antioxidants is going to help us get through that detox process better. And so, of course, fresh fruits and vegetables. And juices and broths, all the wonderful things. But as far as herbs go, rooibos is really good. And then, of course, elderberry and echinacea. I need to do a whole video. I need to write these down. I'll write them down when I am editing my video afterwards. But I should do a whole video on elderberry and echinacea because there's been a lot of things that have gone around on those in the last few years that are very confusing and fear-mongering. And I would love to cut through that confusion and that fear-mongering. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm doing this. That's why I went and got my master herbalist degree because I was tired of all the confusion and fear-mongering. Um, so I hope you feel like you receive that benefit by hanging out with me. So those are some great herbs to support the immune system. They can be used at low doses all the time or higher doses during an acute illness. But there are specific ways that we need to make sure that we are rotating through certain herbs and taking breaks on most of the herbs if we're doing anything regularly long term, which I'm going to do a whole separate video about specifically the echinacea and elderberry situation to clear up any confusion there. Okay, let's talk now about mucus cutting herbs. And you can use these whether you have an actual snot coming through your everything, or if it's just kind of a minor chronic congestion thing. Um, so there are lots of great options here, and it's really up to what suits you, your temperament, there's a word I'm trying to think of that is suddenly not coming to mind, and that's always fun. Not composition. It's something like temperament and composition. It sounds like composition and it's like temperament. Um, I'll think of it at some point and we'll have a eureka moment together. Anyways, and your tastes and textures and lifestyle and everything. So, things that I love honey ginger lemon tea. So you make a ginger tea. I don't even peel the ginger. I mean, if there's some mold, I'll cut that off. But chop up the ginger and put it in some water in a pot, bring it to boil, but only just barely boiling. Once it is boiling, then you just want to simmer it for 20 to 30 minutes. And then you can let it sit there and cool down for a little bit. And then I like to juice some lemons and strain the tea, add the lemon juice, add some raw honey to it, and or maple syrup or agave, up to you. Is so yummy, especially if you drink it warm, and especially if you are having a lot of congestion issues or general inflammation, or even digestive troubles or chronic pain. Adding just a little bit of cayenne powder into that honey lemon ginger tea, so good. Start low if you're not used to cayenne, and do make sure that you are getting high quality cayenne. You don't want to be getting the kind that is just like in the little bottles in the spice section. Those spices tend to be oxidized, old. They're just not as high quality. You want a nice red cayenne powder. Um, I could tell you what there's like the heat units. I don't remember off the top of my head what I typically use, but let me just give you kind of like a ballpark here. So like on herbalembrace.com, which is my website, we sell a cayenne pepper capsule. And sometimes that's easier than buying like a big bag of cayenne powder. Just get the capsules and then you can just break one open and use it. It's like it doses it out for you. That's just an option. Oh, this one does not say what the heat unit is. Okay, let's try a different one. I know that the extracts do tell you the heat unit. So they have a 40 MHU and a 200 MHU. So there's the cayenne and then there's the cayenne. Do not go to the hottest one if you're not used to it. Some people just do not tolerate heat, and that's something that you just have to learn for yourself. Because they just have more fiery, again, whatever that word is, temperaments, we'll just call it temperaments for now. That like adding fire to their system is like not the good idea. This is where we kind of blend a little bit with the Chinese medicine and the Ayurvedic medicine. Those people might want some more kind of cooling kind of things. Anyway, adding cayenne, cayenne ginger, lemon, and honey, all antimicrobial, all warming, and all really help cut mucus. What do I mean by cut mucus? Well, when your mucus is really thick and it's not flowing, we need to get it to flow. And so this thins it out and gets it to flow. So if you are congested and you start drinking a nice warm tea, such as that recipe, expect things to get flowing and have your tissues ready, but don't sniff it back up. It's supposed to get out of your body. And some other things that we can help getting things flowing. There are amazing, there's just so many resources now on just YouTube. You can look up a self-lymphatic drainage massage and you can do a whole body massage. And it's really fast, it's really gentle. You can do it yourself. And then also there are specific massages for the sinuses. But usually we want to make sure that the rest of the body is working well too, because doing the sinus lymphatic drainage, I'm just going to give you a preview of it. Doing this kind of stuff is going to get things flowing. Some of it is going to flow out your cavities, but some of it is just going to flow down through the rest of your lymphatic channels to be eliminated that way. So if you get this moving, but your other lymphatic channels are not moving, then that you're not going to get the benefit that you're looking for. So it's a good thing to look into. So I like doing my whole body. It's really simple. It's like armpits, knee pits, groin, stomach, and then just like tapping your whole body is really invigorating and also helpful for lymphatic. There's move drainage. There's movements you can do. There's dry brushing. There's so many good options, but make sure that you've got like the downstream heavy hitters before you work on the sinuses. And that's something you can do every day. Wonderful. There are some lymphatic herbs. I'm going to do a separate video on that too. But they are not all ones that we would usually use in pregnancy unless they're very, very small amounts and that they are, really necessary. Okay, another great one is fire cider. Yay! I have recorded classes on fire cider in my resources. And again, I'm finding a way to bring those back to you, make it easy for you to access. And we'll let you know. But basically, fire cider is an apple cider vinegar, raw with the mother, infusion of all of these wonderful warming, anti-inflammatory, antiviral, mucus cutting herbs. So we usually have things like horseradish root and ginger and onion and citrus fruits, turmeric root, black pepper, garlic, all the good things. And then you can add like whatever you want to keep the fun going, like rosemary and cinnamon and all kinds of good stuff. Oh, I put lemon verbena in one year. Oh, that was so good. And then you let that infuse for a while, you strain it and you add your raw honey. So that is, and some people use that as salad dressing. I don't, but it's a possibility. But that's something that you would just sip 3 times a day. And if you are doing that, you get let's see, is it a 3-pronged benefit, because you're going to get the immune system benefit of cutting the mucus and clearing congestion and inflammation. You're going to get digestive benefit, especially if you have it about 15 minutes before each meal. It is going to help stimulate digestive juices, but also regulate your digestive juices. That is something unique that apple cider vinegar does. Whether you are high or low on your stomach acid, it helps regulate it. So if you're dealing with pregnancy heartburn, and did I list 2 or 3 now? The immune benefit, the digestive benefit. Oh, and the third benefit, many people find that fire cider helps with joint pain and inflammation. So there's all kinds of good stuff with that. I've been meaning to make my batch for the year since October, and it's February, and here we are, but it's okay. I actually just got my turmeric in. If you're looking for turmeric, and they didn't pay me to do this, but there is a company called White Rabbit. See, I think it's whiterabbitorganic.com. They are a certified organic farm in Florida that grows fresh turmeric, and I got their discounted juicing grade box of turmeric, and it's awesome. Like, it's so easy to just throw it in my juicer. to whatever else I'm juicing that day. So good times. Okay, I think we've hit the fire cider hard enough. Okay, we have something called spicy honey. I believe this recipe is already in the guides, but I'll make sure that it's visible soon. We call it spicy honey. This is a Dr. Christopher recipe that is 3 to 4 cloves of raw garlic, minced up fine and finely, and then 3 to 4 tablespoons of raw honey and cayenne. And the amount of cayenne really depends on where you're at. It can be anywhere from like 1/8 of a teaspoon to a half a teaspoon or a whole teaspoon. Um, and you just make new batches of that as needed, and you just take small amounts of that, like a half a teaspoon to a teaspoon at a time, depending on if you're an adult, if you're a child. It is safe for all ages as long as they are old enough to have honey. And that is a wonderful decongestant. Along that note, the horseradish root that goes into fire cider is probably one of the hardest ingredients to find. So, but once you find it, it is like what is the most powerful decongestant aid I have ever used. If I have a cold that's kind of gotten away from me and things are really stuck and I can't breathe, and so it's like heavy mucus and I can't breathe, then I will go out to my garden. I can do that because I'm a farmer, but you could grow horseradish in a pot. It's extremely hardy. You just need to find a local farmer who has some, or a local homesteader, get a root and start growing it because it is so valuable. And you can even use the green leaves to make like wasabi style sauces and stuff. I haven't tried that yet. I meant to this year. I didn't get to it. Ah, there's always more fun to be had. Okay. Anyway, so I will go get some from I'll go dig some up of the horseradish root, and clean it up, peel it, and just get a little, like, I don't know, like a marble sized amount. Actually, that's a lot if you've never had it before, but something less than a marble sized amount. And like take a small bite of it and chew it up. And it is going to release these vapors that are so powerful. You're going to start crying. You're going to start leaking out your nose. Uh, and it decongests so fast. So I like chewing that up while standing in a hot shower. Um, it feels less messy somehow, and just letting everything flow and just breathing in the vapors, chew it up, breathe in the vapors, and repeat as needed. I found that is like an amazing fast acting remedy. And then we have things like radish. Black Spanish radish in particular is amazing at getting mucus out of the lungs. But any kind of radish is really great for cutting mucus. And we have basil, holy basil, oranges, cloves. That's another thing you can put in fire cider. Mustard seeds, mint. We've already talked about garlic, turnip, onions, thyme, and ginger. And I am going to talk about thyme next. So thyme is a really, really powerful herb for congestion. But here's the thing. Everything I've talked about so far was not an essential oil. The rules are different for essential oils. They're extremely strong and concentrated. That's not what I'm talking about right now. But for a thyme steam inhalation, this can be very powerful, that you will make a thyme tea. So you'll boil some water, you'll throw your thyme in there, and then you will position your head over that water. Make sure that that hot water is on a very stable surface so that you're not at risk for spilling it on yourself. Ask me how I know. And then you're going to want to get a big towel that you can tent over yourself, and you're just holding your face over that hot tea, and you are just breathing in that vapor for as long as you can. And again, repeat as needed. So that's a really, really powerful method. Thyme tea can be very helpful, but it's one of those that we don't usually do a lot of when we're pregnant. Um, because it is so powerful. Culinary amounts, no problem, don't worry about it. But as a tea, and if you were doing a lot of it, that's where we get kind of like, maybe, maybe not. It depends on who you talk to, but the steam inhalation is just fine. All right, so we have done congestion associated with general inflammation, with or without pregnancy. We've done congestion associated with cold and flu, and some herbal helps and other helps around that. And then, of course, we do have one more thing I wanted to mention for this is that when we have really intense sinus pressure here and here, or where your sinuses are at, um, there are a couple other things that we can do, and this is where we can start to use some essential oils. I like to use one of three things if I need something fairly strong, and that would be Dr. Christopher's nose ointment, Dr. Christopher's sensei ointment, or Dr. Christopher's cayenne heat balm. And you have to be really careful with these because they're really strong and you don't want to like put it on and then rub into your eyes. So that is again, it's gonna start breaking things up. It's gonna get things moving. It's gonna get the tears flowing. It's gonna get the nose flowing. Um, and that can be very helpful. And even in pregnancy, if I felt like I had a night where I was about to go to bed and I was like, oh, I'm not really like my nose doesn't feel very open. I just feel a little congested, even though I wasn't sick, which we're getting to. Then I would put like just a little dab inside my nose of the sensei and found that really helpful. That's just what I had on hand. And for my sinuses, I would usually do the cayenne heat balm. Let's take a quick look at the difference between the nose ointment and those two things because I've just never had it. I was given a sensei ointment that I haven't even run out of yet because it's so powerful. Okay, so the nose ointment is castor oil, coconut oil, spearmint oil, peppermint oil, and beeswax. Okay, so that's probably the most gentle of the three. And it says specifically that it is a great support for sore nose, especially during the cold and winter season. Versus we have the Sensei. This one has olive oil, natural oils of cassia, eucalyptus, cajeput, menthol, and camphor crystals, and other fragrant natural oils. So it's an essential oil-based formula, very, very strong. If it were me, do what I didn't do and go with the nose ointment first and see how well that helps you because it would be safer during pregnancy. It will be a lot gentler. And then the cayenne balm, the cayenne heat ointment is it's a similar blend, but it is cayenne pepper, oil, olive oil, wintergreen oil, menthol crystals, and other pure essential oils as fragrances and beeswax. So I wish they had more of the details on there. I feel like more are actually listed on the actual product, um, which I use all the time for muscle stuff. Um, that's my personal thing that I get to deal with. Anyway, so nose ointment first. But Sensei or Cayenne heat balm can be used in cases of like really severe sinus pain and congestion. All right, other things that really help are doing things like a salt sock. You can fill a sock or I mean, I'd probably prefer like a more natural fiber some kind of fabric case that you can fill, like some kind of fabric like tube that you can fill with Epsom salt and then warm that up in the oven. Gives you a nice moist heat, just with the way that salt interacts with the atmosphere, uh, the environment. And then just like placing that over the sinuses. Most often you'll see a salt sock recommended for like ear infection, which is really it's all the same thing. Congestion is all the same thing. We just need to get things moving again, and we need to reduce intake and exposure to the things that are increasing our inflammation and need for detox. Okay. I also recently saw someone say that humming, the frequency created in our bodies when we hum, is antibacterial. I don't know if it's true yet, but if it is, like that is awesome. And if it's not, humming isn't going to hurt you, so why not? So I love that. Love, love, love that. All right. So let's talk about specifically congestion during pregnancy that is not associated with exposure and like toxin exposure, environmental exposure, and or illness. So just straight up pregnancy congestion. So I don't have time to go into the nitty gritty of it, but it's really cool, actually, really interesting to read about why do we tend to be more congested when we are pregnant. And so part of it is that we have this increased blood flow so that we can feed ourselves, feed our baby that we're growing. And that is awesome and amazing. And how can we support that in a way that we can have that amazing blood flow, but not have the inflammation up here, not have it like make everything harder to breathe through. And so I'm going to talk about that. And then also part of it is like that lowered immune function is that we tend to feel like there's a threat all the time. And so the body's creating extra mucus and trying to deal with it. So those are just some kind of two things, but you can look more into it if you want to. But I just wanted to say around those sort of root causes, what has helped me in the past. And again, if you're watching this and you have other things that have helped you, like go ahead and post in the comments. Um, so we can all learn from each other. But like I said, my first pregnancy, I was sick all the time. I was congested all the time, and it was awful. And my most recent pregnancy, I was sick maybe once, and it was like so mild. And I did not have that same congestion that I was used to. By the very, 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 very end of the pregnancy, I needed to take some steps to be able to breathe a little easier at night. And again, like that's normal, but here's some things that can help you be more comfortable. So like what was the main difference? Well, I did a lot of detoxing before I was pregnant. But if you're already pregnant, that's not going to help you right now. And I changed my diet before I got pregnant too. And so in this group, I advocate a whole foods plant-based diet. If you want to learn more about that, stay tuned. We'll be doing more and more on that, but basically what can we all agree on diet wise? Get rid of the processed food, get rid of the sugar. Okay, bare minimum, do that. You will feel so much better. I don't care if you're craving cookies. Like, I mean, I do, but like, if you want to feel better when you're pregnant and grow a healthy baby and not have your body just get totally depleted. You need to feed yourself well. And I have a whole other guide and video on cravings in pregnancy. So I get it. I totally like grew up with a sweet tooth. I get it. So I'm not without compassion, even if I sound like it. And that's why I've created some resources to help you work through that. We can get through cravings and still be healthy. Okay, so having a really clean diet helped me a lot as far as kind of the normal aches and pains and discomforts of pregnancy, and especially with this congestion. And the other thing was I was drinking my prenatal tea every day, every day, every day, every day. So if you're new around here or not aware, on herbalembrace.com, I have the teas that I make myself and I sell, and they include some ingredients from our farm. And Mama's Glow and Mama's Hope are my two prenatal teas. Mama's Glow is kind of like the standard prenatal tea, and Mama's Glow is, yeah, that's the standard one. And then Mama's Hope is the more, it can be used more as a recover from reproductive troubles and increase fertility, but also can be taken throughout the pregnancy for women who have a history of miscarriage, which we also have a video on, and then can be taken again at the very end of pregnancy. To help get the body ready. So it's just the only difference is one ingredient called squalvine or partridge berry herb. Um, And so if you're not sure which one you need based on that description, go ahead and reach out to me. I can help you. Anyway, so having a good prenatal tea is going to make sure that we are getting our vitamins and our minerals. It's going to help with our hydration and the ingredients in my prenatal tea, but really any good prenatal tea is going to have ingredients that nutritionally support the body and are naturally antiviral, anti-inflammatory. So that helps a lot. And then, of course, along that note of making sure you have a good hydration balance. So if we have a lot more blood flow, which is good and necessary, but we don't want excessive fluctuations in that. And so that's where managing our blood sugar appropriately, managing our salt balance and our hydration state appropriately can be really helpful. And I've posted a recipe here before for my hydration drink, which is basically coconut water mixed with prenatal tea, lemon juice, raw honey, a little bit of apple cider vinegar, a little bit of sea salt, good things like that. Um, and yeah, so that's a really great way to keep your electrolytes up, especially when it's hot. But we have to hydrate in the winter too. This is when I don't do as good of a job because I'm not out working in the sun as much, but it is important every day, especially while you're pregnant and especially if you're dealing with congestion or inflammation. All right. Other ways to get our minerals in for hydration would be mineral rich broth. I teach how to make a nice, delicious veggie broth. Um, excuse me. And especially if you're putting in functional mushrooms like shiitake and turkey tail and reishi and chaga, like these are amazing supports for the immune system as well. Um, and then shilajit is a really interesting source of minerals. I personally never advocate isolated or concentrated sources of anything. Shilajit is a really interesting substance that I told my husband what it was the other day, and I was like, the shortest way I have to explain it is that it's basically like prehistoric broken down leaf matter. You can look it up. It's really interesting. It tastes like a campfire. I don't think it's that bad, but it's bad enough that I'm not like I don't go through the bottle very fast. But that is a good option, especially for women who know they are quite depleted on minerals. Um, Okay, and then some other things that help, and these would help with the other two categories we talked about as well, was getting a nice saline nasal spray. I used to do Xlear or Clear, but it's spelled Xlear, and they have an adult version and a baby version. And so like if nothing else is working, that's an easy thing to kind of spray in the nose. Some people like to do that every day or every time they come inside from like a social gathering or whatever, just to make sure they don't catch anything if contagion is real. And that's an option. But recently I have stuck to just kind of mixing salt in water, like mix salt in some warm water. And then I'll, this is the poor woman's neti pot is get a spoonful of that and hold it up to one nostril, block one, and then just breathe it up. um, it's very effective, but you do want to get the salt balance right so that it is the same concentration as a saline. Saline, in this case, not meaning just salt water, but mimicking the natural salt balance of the body, so that when it gets up there, it's comfortable because it's equivalent to what's on the inside. So that can be super helpful as a disinfectant, but also as an anti-inflammatory and to clear that mucus out fast. Really good. Okay. Actually, that is everything I was planning to talk about today. I'll see you on the next one of these seminar, webinar thingamajigs. All right. Bye, y'all.